Hey, this is Leach with Simpson Math, and in this video we're going to be talking about using the factorial in a formula. These are the combinations and permutation formulas that we'll be seeing shortly, but we're just kind of making sure we're good with order of operations and plugging them into technology, and just seeing the practical differences instead of the big picture differences. So let's get started with this one that's on the screen. We have 7 factorial divided by 7 minus 5 factorial. And so first, I want to talk about just how would I do this by hand. So let's do that. It looks a little bit scary to do it by hand, but it's not as scary. So let's go ahead and build it out. So we're going to have 7 factorial over 7 minus 5 factorial. Let's just follow order of operations that we know. I know there was this weird exclamation point factorial thing, but we've always known that we need to simplify parentheses first. So this is 7 factorial over, and let's just do the 7 minus 5 part first. 7 minus 5 is 2. So this is just saying 2 factorial. So this is 7 factorial divided by 2 factorial. And let's just start breaking out what this is. So on my bottom, on the denominator, I'm going to make a bigger fraction bar. I'm going to leave 2 factorial. I'm going to leave that alone, leave that there. And then now I'm going to write out 7 factorial until I can get down to 2 factorial. So this is going to be 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times, I could just write 2 times 1, and that's what 2 factorial is, 2 times 1. But I could also just go ahead and write this as 2 factorial because those will reduce. So let's go ahead and do that. The 2 factorial and that 2 factorial will reduce because that's just going to be 2 times 1 over 2 times 1. Both of the 2's and the 1's will reduce. And so now we're left with just 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3. So now we just need to do a bit of multiplication to be able to finish that up. And that's how we then end up with, when you do that multiplication, 2,520. Let's use technology because I don't want to do 2,520 by hand. I'm going to do Desmos first because it's faster and like it better. I'm going to get rid of my work. And whenever I do fractions, on both Desmos or the 84, I like to get my fraction bar up first. So if you have a real keyboard, you can just press the division, the slash with the question mark, and that will pop open the fraction bar. I'm just pressing that on my keyboard. It's the one with the question mark by the shift. Or you can, on the on-screen keyboard, just press the division. On the 84, we're going to press alpha y equals, if you have this version of 84, if you have the 84, which is at least, it's like 2.55 NP for your the operating system, but most 84s should have this option, so you can open up a fraction template. If you have an 83 or below, or an older 84, and this doesn't pop up when you hit alpha y equals, well, if you have an 84, you can maybe find a friend and update the operating system. Or you just have to be careful with parentheses. So I'm going to select that, so that way I now have my fraction template. And we could just type it in from scratch. So I'm going to do 7 factorial. Desmos is still yelling at me because my denominator is blank. And then in my denominator, I clicked in it with my mouse, or I could have just used the down arrow on my keyboard, or the right arrow on the on-screen keyboard. And then I'm just going to type it in from the get-go, 7 minus 5, inside of parentheses, and then factorial, and that's how we get our answer here. Notice with those parentheses, if I didn't do parentheses, it will matter. Check that out. This is 7 minus 5 factorial, and I get something real gross if I don't have those parentheses. You'll notice that that when you open a parentheses in Desmos, it will automatically give you a closing parentheses. So I could have done 7 minus 5. Ooh, let me get my mouse out of the way. Notice how it's still gray. This parenthesis right here is gray because I haven't typed in the close. So you can actually arrow to the right, and instead of typing in the parenthesis, and then do the exclamation point. And so if I'm using that closing parenthesis, Desmos will fill it in. One other little tip is, if I don't have the parentheses, I've typed 7 minus 5, and I realize, oops, I should have put parentheses. Just close the parentheses. If there's not, if the entire kind of row or line of math that you're working on is going to be in parentheses, just close the parentheses, and you'll see that Desmos will add a ghosted grade parentheses at the beginning. And so then we can finish it up with the factorial. Oh, so over here on the 84, it's just the same. Let's do 7 I'm going to do alpha window up to get to that 9, and then arrow down, and then again parentheses are required. 7 minus 5, close the parentheses. Again, I did alpha window, and then you can press 9 or go up or press down a bunch of times. Or you can press math, go over to probability, and down to number 4. Run it, and you get the same 2,520. All right, we're going to move on to another one. This one is rather similar, but what's different is we now have this extra multiplication out front. So it's gonna be this. Actually, let me pop it up on my work here. So let me edit what we have here. So instead of a 5, it's going to be a 4. Let me get rid of all this here. Let me fill this in with a times 1 up top. There you go. We have a 4, a little bit bigger, and a 4 factorial. So we have 7 factorial over 4 factorial times 7 minus 4 factorial. So just to be clear, again, like we had, we have our 4 factorial. What's happening between these two things? This is multiplication between those two. We have 7 minus 4 is 3. So I can simplify this by doing 7 minus 4, getting the 3. And I understand that those two things are just multiplying. All right. So now let me just spell out what I have. I'm going to highlight this in, let's do this in blue, and let's do this in purple, just so that we were clear about my denominator. So my denominator, this 4 factorial, that's 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. My 3 factorial is 3 times 2 times 1. Usually, you should be able to see, some things are going to reduce. This entire 3 times 2 times 1 is going to reduce with this 3 times 2 times 1. This formula, by the way, is a combination formula. The previous one we just did is the permutation formula. We will see that formula, my contemporary students, in the next section in 10.3. We will have it by name in the next section. We're just practicing that math right now. Everything should actually reduce out. So let's just do the low-hanging fruit, that 4 with that 4. And then you could do the 6 and the 3 times 2 in 2 stages, or understand that 3 times 2 is 6, so that 6 and that 3 times 2 will reduce. What I mean by stages is you could say this 6 with that 3, leaving a 2 over 1, and then that 2 with this 2 reduces to 1. Let's see what's left over. So what is not reduced is this 7 and this 5, so this should leave just 35 when all is said and done. As we'll see in the next question, this combination version with the multiplication up front greatly reduces, makes this number a little bit smaller. All right, so let me clear out what we have here. And let's just start this over. So if you want to kind of try this, pause the video and try the multiplication by yourself, so make sure you're good with typing in it. Feel free. I'm just going to go and do it after a breath. All right, so now I'm going to do my division first, and then I'm going to type in my 7 factorial. On screen, it's this 7 ABC factorial, or you could just do the exclamation point shift 1 on your keyboard. So then I'm going to do that for the rest. So 4 factorial, open parentheses, so it's an implied multiplication, times 7 minus 4 factorial. It is not a coincidence that this is a 7 and that's a 7 and this is a 4 and that's a 4. The formula, we'll see the combination formula later. They are the same numbers there. So we end up with 35. All right, let's do that over here. So alpha y equals, to get your numerator denominator. That numerator denominator, by the way, should be hiding under math. Math all the way over to fraction. And it's here, that numerator over denominator. Oops, I was pointing to on-screen keyboard and you didn't see on-screen keyboard. Let me take that off. So on-screen keyboard that you cared about, that I needed to show you, was the ABCs here, and there's the factorial. All right, sorry about that. All right, so in my numerator, I have my 7 factorial, alpha window 9, arrow down, 4, alpha window 9, open parentheses, 7 minus 4, close parentheses, alpha window 9. 35. All right. The last question I want to talk about is then we're just going to be comparing these two. So So this is for the given values of n and r, fill in the formula. So this is practicing the formula. I'm just going to do it with Desmos, because the 84 is kind of clunky, at least on screen demoing it. And so we can make these comparisons, and you make this just a bit smaller. So we have this formula is what we did 2 questions ago. This is something called a permutation, where order matters. This is the combination, where order tends to not matter. And we'll see that more in detail in the next section. We're going to substitute 13 in for the n, 4 for the r's, and let's make sure we get those numbers. So if you want to pause the video and plug these into your calculator, make sure you get those numbers. Feel free. I'm going to twiddle my thumbs for a second while you do that. Spoilers. All right. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to do the letter A first. I'm going to do the fraction. Then I'm going to do n is 13. So 13 exclamation point for the factorial. Open parentheses. N is 13 again. Minus 4. Close parentheses. Factorial. I could have done the 13 minus 4 and get the 9. And that would be the same thing. So notice if I change this to a 9, I get the same thing. But let's put it back there. This is Desmos on a computer. I can highlight, copy, paste. So I did that so that way I can add my 4 factorial in the denominator over here. Reminder, 4 factorial is 24. So what I'm really doing is just dividing 1760 by an extra 24. And that's why it's getting that much smaller. So that's really all that's doing is I'm dividing it by 24. It's 24 times smaller. And we'll talk about why that is in the next section. It's just important here to make sure we're good with the formulas, good to type them into the calculator, and good here using a like formula to plug it in. All right, hope that helps. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.